Welcome to part 3 of our Clock Tower playthrough. Now we are going to do the showdown with everybody's favorite villain, Sledgehammer.
We're armed with the sentimental item for May, the pocket watch that her father owned.
So if we get that to her, her spirit is going to be soothed, and Sledgehammer's not going to like that because his power will be decreased.
So let's kind of see how the rest of this progresses.
Bet he gets in our way. On the way to deliver a watch to a pretty lady.
12-year-old, not really a lady.
Well, we're only 14.
Oh yes, well technically we're like 14 and like 6/8.
Hey, creepy.
Just hanging out.
So apparently he knows we read his biography.
Yeah, so I guess we
I love his magical jump. His ass has got to be so wet.
It's kind of awkwardly dripping now.
Parkour.
You almost sort of have to appreciate, like, I don't know, he's sort of jovial and kind of...
So, yeah. This is the point when I was first playing this game that I was kind of like, what?
Alright, so we're talking about back in the day, your very first playing of this game ever.
Yeah, the concept of a boss battle in a Clock Tower game, like, it's still weird.
Yeah.
When I was playing this over at my friend's house, he kind of was just like, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of,
It's a tonal shift, especially this little part here where we get a nice little magical girl transformation.
Sailor Moon. Yeah.
We're even gonna raise our hands and spin a little bit.
And, as we're gonna see, the bottle of holy water that we received from our mom, that I believe that's the statue that Alyssa mentioned that was the patron saint of the Hamilton family.
Whose head fell off.
Has now transformed into a, like, super sweet laser bow and arrow?
Yeah.
That Alyssa, I guess, knows how to use immediately?
Well, I mean, it's her destiny, as we'll find out later. But, yeah, this is pretty dumb.
I can deal with this. Yeah, so... Oh, and I guess before we go into crapping on this, let's kind of explain how Sledgehammer's life bar kind of works.
So basically, on the number of people he killed, it gets converted into health. So you can see his life bar is comparatively pretty small. I say comparatively because there are other stalkers, and they have much bigger life bars.
Yeah, I guess it's a little weird as we go later on where we start getting into just the incredible amount of people that some of the later stalkers have killed. It's sort of funny to think in retrospect how comparatively Sledgehammer doesn't really have that many, and yet he seems like the least restrained killer out of all of the others.
He does. So you can see here that I'm kind of just running away from him, and that's because the way to do this is to wait until he basically stops to taunt you, like that.
And you have to charge up your arrow.
And you can basically pin him into place. Now, the aim here is to pin them 3 times in kind of a triangle pattern, and then you can use your super attack. Sometimes this isn't advisable, depending on the boss fight, and you also have a limited amount of time, as you can see there.
You are kind of terrible.
Hey, I want to see you try this. I told you, Alyssa moves awful. Also, I have to admit, I'm not the best at this game, and it has been a very long time since I played it. So I think this is actually my 3rd try.
Oh no, and this is just the first boss.
Yep.
So look forward to some of the later boss battles, everyone.
Oh, don't worry, I'll cut out my failed attempts.
Yeah. So,
if anyone is watching our LPs expecting us to be good at video games, go watch another LP. It's not gonna happen.
We're not even good at commenting on video games, so...
Why are you watching this?
So...
Shaw draws nice pictures, I guess. So we've got him pinned once. That's progress.
And Oh, I wasn't sure if we were gonna get him that time.
Yeah,
because
that
he
one, he kind of moved. And that's one thing that's really irritating here is, yeah, they're pinned, but they kind of move and you are stuck
just like that.
Standing in one spot.
Yeah. You can fire off, like, not as charged arrows to him, but it's, obviously going to be a harder time chipping down his health bar.
Yeah, because you can see there, we fired quite a few arrows, but it's only like a little nub. Little nub of health.
So, I have to say, I'm not really a huge fan of when survival horror games, when either you give me a weapon that I can use all the time, or you just, this is just too much of a big production that now we have access to this magical bow arrow. And I believe that the game might actually explain that it's now that we're kind of powered up by having the sentimental item of Maze that we're able to use the bow. But it just sort of strikes me as weird that all of a sudden, before we were throwing chairs at Sledgehammer, now we're armed with this bow and arrow, and we're able to expertly kind of pin him down.
Yeah, it's a weird tonal shift. It just doesn't... I feel like this is where the game really starts to fall apart.
I'm not against having this, it's just that I'm not entirely convinced it was used effectively.
And see, for me, it was just such a... Like, I'd played all the Clock Tower games before playing this game, and this was, like, I didn't... It was such a kick in the face.
It's sort of hard to... See, and I wasn't super into... like, I never played the Clock Tower games when I was younger, so I didn't kind of develop the same sort of adoration and the expectations that you might have.
And I mean, I'd played the others, so I knew they weren't the best, but I was expecting, like... I don't know.
Yeah.
And so you could see here that I've got him pinned quite a few times, but I'm having a lot of trouble activating her super. And I found that it's kind of finicky. And I'm sure that someone will be like, well, this is actually how you do it, and I appreciate that. But, oh man, this was frustrating. It's like, I've got... and you're supposed to do it in a triangle shape.
Here you go.
Yeah, so now apparently I was triangular enough for the game's liking.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
So here's the big screw you, I win.
And see, by this point, I'd already got down so much of his health that it almost wasn't worth it. But whatever.
Yeah, if you are able to do
Moon
this
Prism
early on
power.
in the fight, yeah, this is kind of... We're gonna see later in the game, but Alyssa is basically, like, literally a magical girl.
Yeah.
She kind of has these abilities because of her lineage.
And yeah, like, the magical girl combined with a horror, like, I think it could be done well, but this is...
I think the fact that they're, like, having, like... I like the idea of having this young character have to deal with all these horrific stuff. Like, that's kind of interesting because it's contrast, essentially, having the young, immature character have to deal with a very mature adult situation. But just, I think maybe just kind of the visuals of having, like, this big, grandiose, magic lightning battle, like, the light comes from heaven, I guess, and crashes down. It's just so grandiose that it sort of doesn't really feel like it fits thematically.
No, because you have this helpless person suddenly going to be a superhero.
Now they're super powered, and it feels like such a disconnect.
Because what it becomes is not, oh god, I have to get away, I'm always helpless. It becomes this chore of basically running through the game until you get to the part where you have superpowers again.
Yeah.
So, I love Alyssa's tie. It really just looks like someone snipped off the end.
I've always wondered about those ties, if they're, like, made in that shape, or if, like, there's a pin at the bottom tucking in, like, the pointy top.
Maybe.
May.
Aw.
Father is dead.
Just soften the blow.
There was an explosion.
I do kind of, again, I feel like, as we can see, the pocket watch there seems to be
So sorry.
a little mangled a bit from her father's, the explosion that hit her father.
And it got back into that box somehow.
Yeah, again, which makes it feel as though, again, this is just not real time travel. This is just kind of sort of an echo
I love how Alyssa's hair, or face, is just in May's hair.
I can taste the blood on it.
It's like spaghetti sauce.
So, we did get a bit of backstory for Alyssa just now, in that Alyssa never knew her father, and he died when she was very young, and that Alyssa sort of feels that her grandfather is,
like her dad.
This is kind of a sweet moment.
It is.
Thank you, May.
You finally played the piano properly, and I've come back to you.
It does sort of, I do sort of wonder if this is taken to be that, so maybe May's father was able to, I guess if we're assuming heaven, was able to go to heaven, and that he spent all this time waiting to be reunited with May, who could not join him in heaven because of Sledgehammer killing her and using her as part of his power. Oh.
That
alright.
scene also seemed out of place. Just like a happy, I don't know.
It did seem a little, like, too... This is a weird transition.
I shouldn't have drunk so much.
Yeah, the last, 30 seconds were a little confusing. I guess Alyssa was overwhelmed, but it came off like there was, she went from 60 to 0.
Yeah. Just can't handle her Mai Tais.
So, after, oh no. Don't answer it, Alyssa.
It's the most terrifying moment
Don't
in the
answer
game.
the window. It's like
Who does this?
Halloween music going on right now, so you just know that the person out there is the worst person.
Oh, no!
Close your fish mouth.
This character does not need to be in this game.
Why are you climbing on my roof?
And why?
Stop it! You're
Why
making it worse. What are you doing, Dennis?
How did he get up there? Oh my god, Dennis. So this is where the mocap really becomes
This is where
apparent
it really shines.
that they just
Stop.
told him to flail.
What are you...
What do you think you're doing?
Dickhead.
Putting a ladies' residence
Why
to-
do you... If someone entered my room through my window and rolled around on my bed, they would be gone.
And there's literally, no reason for him to enter through the window.
Nope.
He could have just gone to the front door.
Yep.
When and where?
But fuck it, they had a mocap budget and they were gonna use it.
They literally, if they wanted to justify him coming in through the window, he could have been, I was trying to knock on the door and you weren't answering. But that still wouldn't explain, why did you come to my window and bang on it, assuming, I was here?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Now I'm gonna try to hit on you.
Yes, you're so sexy, Dennis, I can't help myself.
All
If only
14 years of man.
You've grown up.
Oh, Alyssa, stop leading him on.
You're just encouraging his shitty behavior. Stop it! Get off my bed!
Stop spazzing out.
Dennis! And now Dennis just, disappears into the ether, because now that he has delivered us this key,
He's
we
just
do
gonna,
not need him.
roll around on our bed.
You're gonna see that Dennis, does dick all in the game, except for, handing us, 2 items at 2 different times.
And he's irritating.
And he just flails, and he makes me hate that. He's just so... I don't know. I feel like they have him as a character because he's meant to be someone Alyssa talks to. Oh no!
There's a ghost! And this is a really weird, arbitrary puzzle.
Hello?
So it's really smelly in here. So what does this ghost need? Lavender water.
Oh.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb, hey?
Hmm.
Oh, thank you. Now I don't stink in death. I
Alright.
can go on. I was
Peace
so worried about
out.
that. But yeah, Dennis sucks.
Yeah. Do we want to spoil a possible theory about who this particular,
I don't know it, so please do.
Oh, well, as we are gonna see later in the game, Alyssa's father mysteriously disappeared under, unknown circumstances.
So some people think that is Alyssa's father?
Yeah, because it's this kind of sealed off room in Alyssa's house, and it's just kind of because
But I feel like if it stunk as bad as it did, 'cause
Yeah.
a decomposing body is not a
it's kind
Plus
of,
that ghost was a lady.
no, it looked like a dude. It didn't
Looked
have,
like a lady to
it
me.
looked like it didn't have the long hair that the lady ghosts have.
Well, just because it's short, ladies can have short hair.
Yeah, but it looked like the ghost that came out from, and it was like, I'm doing the prayer to to Final Fantasy, and it floated away, and it was bald, which typically I think they used to represent the male ghost.
Was it bald? I thought it had
No,
hair.
it was bald.
All
The
right.
skeleton had hair that was sitting in the tub.
Then why was the ghost bald? Nothing adds up. This is stupid.
Theory debunked.
So this is our grandfather's study. It's super boring. There are many faces on the wall.
It's pretty. He's got a huge desk.
He does.
Desk is monstrous.
That sounds like a dinosaur. Discus monstrous. An old sea creature from the Jurassic Age.
Mm-hmm.
Shaw's just trying to like pat me on the head now.
Yeah. So here we learn about entities, which essentially entities are just these kind of evil, malevolent spirits that are created through a special ritual that possess humans and makes the humans do bad shit so that they can become subordinates.
Yep. And then they're sustained by horrible, terrible things. And then they're being fought by Reuters.
Reuters, who are always young women in their teens.
And that's one thing that's interesting about that boss fight to me, because Alyssa's just like, oh, I have a bow now, that's cool. And she doesn't question it.
Yeah.
Except it turns out she's really confused by it, and also they spell Reuters 2 different ways.
Well, I think what they're trying to maybe insinuate that spelling in the book there is maybe an older spelling, which would kind of make sense, because if they've been around for centuries, I imagine that the spelling of the word would change at some point.
I guess. It's still stupid, though. But yeah, like, it would have just been nice for her to go, what's going on? Why could I do that? But instead she just accepts it?
Yeah.
My mother.
I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of... The Reuter thing, again, it's something I find interesting, because,
I can tell.
you know, once again, you have these young girls who have to deal with this adult stuff.
Just go home.
So, I don't mind that plot point, but I do wonder if, I don't know, just the fact that it's in a clock tower game feels like it's sort of like an interesting plot element that maybe should have just been developed on its own.
Isn't she traveling?
Oh good, we're getting plot backstory for Dennis, who I really, care about this man and his home life.
Man? Come on.
This peon.
Okay. You can check
I
out
like
some
Alyssa, she just gives him an arbitrary task so that she can just do things.
Yes, it kind of sends him off on a wild goose chase.
my birthday.
See, even after.
Oh, I'm the one for you. I remembered
Yeah.
your birthday.
What's the matter?
Yeah, so
Nothing.
Are you seriously trying to hit on me, Dennis?
You can count on me, partner.
Partner?
you're not allowed to say that.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so it's Alyssa's birthday tomorrow, and that's an important plot element of the game. As we're gonna find out, Reuter's powers peak on their 15th birthday. So something significant is gonna be happening around when Alyssa is at her most powerful. Which, I don't know, it's sort of interesting, I guess, that once again, these young girls, they are 15 when they are the best at killing off these killing off the subordinates and fighting the entities.
I like how the keys are behind us, but they're not actually.
Presumably, yeah, so that's, I guess, Grandpa has a big, giant photo of himself in his own study that he just likes to look at.
Yeah. He's a
He's a stand-up guy, Alyssa's grandfather.
very humble
As we're gonna find out.
in the
he's-
game.
Yeah,
He's totally not a total douchebag.
yeah, there's totally not anything
best.
creepy going on with Alyssa's beloved grandfather.
Yeah, no, he's the greatest.
How much money do you think? Like, is Alyssa rich?
Yes.
Because, I mean, her mom is, like, renting this place. So, I don't know. Is, like, the Hamilton family, are they super rich? And, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it looks like it's in pretty good condition, so I'd assume that they are pretty wealthy.
Mhm.
I mean, everything looks shiny and solid oak, and there was a statue in a fireplace room.
That is a secret trap
That is
door.
not, that is habits of the rich.
Yeah, that's not cheap, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, secret rooms are expensive. You have to get in contractors, and then you have to silence them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot going on there. So, that's a nice arbitrary thing to happen, so we can solve that puzzle.
Why couldn't we just have one single painting? Why did
because this one has a clock under it.
But the other one couldn't just have had a clock on it?
Well, no.
Why?
Because we needed a spooky thing to happen.
It's not even spooky, it just sort of feels like they didn't want to confuse people by possibly making them think that there was something they needed to do with this clock. But at the same time, I don't know, would people have spent that long trying to mess around with this clock just because that there's a picture there?
Maybe.
I think if you, logically, if you get the key to your grandfather's study, you go into the study, you find the winding keys that look like clock hands, that's logical enough that you might go, oh, where did I see a clock? And then you can complete this puzzle. I don't think you need the extra nudge of, oh, a painting falls down and it goes, look, I'm a clock.
Hey, this game is not exactly about efficiency. This is hubris.
Speaking of efficiency...
Shut up! I'm great at this game. It looks like I'm right, but I've actually got the keys messed up there.
Oh, are they, backwards?
Yes.
Oh!
I know. I'm not good at puzzles that require some sort of, spatial awareness. I feel like I'm so close, and I'm not there, and people who are more familiar with this game and, know this puzzle off by heart are standing there screaming at me until they're red in the face.
If I remember correctly, I think you might be able to complete this puzzle in 3 moves.
You sure can! I'm the best at video games.
This is why you're watching our videos right now, viewer, presumably because you like us and you like our commentary. You are hopefully not watching because you think we are good at video games, because if so, then this part right here will probably dispel any notion of that.
Yeah.
Please don't unsubscribe.
Okay, this time though.
This time.
This time I'm gonna do it.
Maybe this time.
This time
We could have, if we just waited for the clock to, go to the time naturally, this would have taken shorter. There we go.
There we go.
Good for you.
That's what we call a walkthrough. I'm a little embarrassed.
Yes, as you should be.
Yeah, that was, I am shamed.
So now, stuff like this kind of bugs me in games, because now it's do you mean to say that you had this clock sitting in your room, and was the clock not functional, and we had to wind it? Because otherwise, would this only chime when it was, would this only be revealed when you had, put the 2 keys in? Because otherwise, could you imagine, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you hear this chime going off, and then the door slides open, and Nancy kind of sighs to herself, and she gets up, and she, resets it so she can go back to bed.
Or she's, getting sexy with a man, and suddenly the door just opens, and she has to awkwardly explain her family's weird habits.
Oh, no.
There's a reason Nancy's still single. So where are we going now?
Now we are apparently taking control of whatever time trip displacement.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're in the middle of a freight yard. Kind of an undetermined time period so far, and place as well.
Oh, there's a sparkly.
Oh.
God damn it. You have to get all the sparklies. It would be neat if they had, sparklies that you'd go get, and the subordinate would just pop out and chop off your head.
Immediately?
Yes. That would punish me for my greed.
I kind of hate when video game characters are walking around in a place where it's super soggy, and you hear the squish-squish whenever they step, just because if it were me, I know I would be so miserable with my wet shoes and socks.
Well, maybe that's a good scene builder. Because poor Alyssa's probably feeling pretty miserable. She can't find her mom. She's being chased by horrible people. And there's squishiness on her shoes.
So we're getting some backstory here on what we can assume to be the
big ghosty of this area.
Yeah, Dorothy and Albert, who had their eyes gouged out and were basically
horribly murdered.
Yeah.
Oh, ma'am.
Some kind of janky looking trees. I know trees are hard, but it's a little...
They're a little janky.
If you got janky trees, don't put your janky trees in the foreground, where a smartass like me can comment on them.
I feel like this area is so disorienting. Like, it's really hard to see that you have to go there.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of areas in this game. I feel like this game falls into the everything is brown mentality.
Yeah.
Where, I don't know, I get that, I mean, we want it to be grim, we want it to be dirty, but it's just kind of a little drab.
Yeah.
So we're gonna scoot past these ghosts, because I believe we do not have their sentimental items yet.
We sure don't. Well, we have a bear now.
Oh, so we have one.
We do.
A little teddy bear.
There you go.
So does somebody, like, drive into a wall here, and that's how they died?
It's tough to say.
I sort of feel like there's not enough car to that car.
It's definitely, I think,
Is it
there's like a little...
half, like, junked car?
I'm pretty sure there's a drop-off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of hard to see because they didn't choose a good angle for it. So, someone clearly had a bad day.
Yeah.
It's probably fine, though. Well,
so we just let ourselves into this person's house?
well, I mean, at this point... Oh, it's a scary man.
It's a blind man. Better run!
Well, he could see you.
Who are you?
Spidey senses.
So this is interesting to me because his eyes were gouged out after his death and there's no indication that he was blind. So why did he so readily adopt the habits of a blind man in his death? Like, that's just interesting to me.
I'm not sure I follow, because I'm gonna assume that this is sort of like, May, in that he was killed, his eyes were gouged out, and now he's kind of forced to relive,
But if he's reliving it, he wouldn't have been blind at the time.
He had his eyes gouged out!
Yeah, post-mortem.
Yeah, but May, like, sat there at the piano with her head bashed in.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I should stop nitpicking where there are no nits to pick.
I think it's just, I feel as though, as a result of their deaths, I feel like the characters are kind of, it's sort of a more torment for them. I believe that there's a point in one of the notes where it mentions that the subordinates, they get their power
from suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fact that these two are suffering in their deaths is lending more power to them.
Even dead, she's still ironing.
Mm-hmm.
What a trooper.
Now, saying that, as we're kind of talking about the suffering powers, the subordinates, I do kind of wish that we deliver the sentimental item before we fight them, because it feels like that should weaken them enough that we can fight them. And I'm talking over this beautiful scene here.
You gotta feel pretty good for that lady, though. I mean, she has her shit together. She knows how to be a ghost.
I do kind of, I guess I sort of wonder if that's like, I don't know, just some sort of paranormal expression of how anguished she is. If she's, like, deliberately controlling it, or if it's just because she is in such pain at that moment and she's freaking out that stuff kind of around her is affected.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, to summarize, how much in control of the abilities we just saw is Dorothy.
Yeah.
But yes, like I would like it if we could affect the power level of the subordinates before we approach them in the boss fight, because as we're gonna see, it's a reoccurring element that we hand over the sentimental item after we defeat the subordinate, which just doesn't really seem to make sense to me.
There's a ghostie. I like how all the ghosties are essentially wearing dresses at this point. Oh, it got caught.
Giving a hug. Just crawl away.
Well, he left me alone.
Just wanted a hug.
Yeah,
Just hug
you
it
know,
out.
he's lonely. Being a ghost for so long.
So I guess now, as Alyssa... Moonflower. This is turning into Sailor Moon more and more.
Right? Alyssa's real name is Usagi.
Once again, Genghis is crap at puzzles.
No, I'm fine. I just wanted to show what happened when you didn't get it right.
Right.
You know. I'm giving the whole experience here. When Shaw plays a game, I'm gonna come down on her so hard.
I'll just never play a game.
It's your
Joke's
master
on you.
plan.
So this is basically just kind of more backstory about Dorothy and Albert. Sort of, as we see, a lot of the levels kind of become very formulaic. We get backstory. Well, rather, we see the tragedy, we get backstory, we see more backstory, and then we fight people and win.
Yes, and it's the best. So that's it for part 3. We will see you for part 4. Or not see you, as it were.
Making fun of blind people.
So classy.
Alright, see you guys then.